our daily lives, that will change history, 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 that will change history. That will be the most beautiful day.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for stopping by and tuning in to our weekly Intel report for the 3rd of May, 2023. Spring is finally here, and with it we have our first week of reporting here for the new month here. And we have quite a bit of news to go over this evening. As many of you may know, we have some big breaking news today. That the Kremlin, in the capital of Russia, Moscow, was attacked by a drone strike by an unknown party. Could be Ukraine, could be a partisan attack, and also as our live poll in our live chat this evening might hint at, it could also be a false flag operation by the Russian government themselves. Now, we'll get into that a lot later into the show. We'll go into the nitty-gritty details of the strike, and we'll also be watching some footage of that strike, which is, of course, very suspicious and convenient that footage even exists in its condition in the first place, the angles and everything. We'll talk about that later in the show. But first, if you haven't already, if you're just tuning in, if you're just stopping by, make sure you hit the like button on the way in. It's the best way to get the algorithm's attention. We have to poke and prod that algorithm so we can get what we need. Okay, so let's hit that like button real quick on your way in. Also, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to support us. It's also the only way to get access to the live chat on the YouTube live chat there. The only way to get access, again, is to be subscribed to the channel. It's also the best way to get notified when new videos and streams go live. For those of you that don't know, we do dual stream to both twitch.tv and YouTube. So if you're following along over there on Twitch, thank you so much for stopping by today. Make sure you hit that follow button. If you don't like watching on Twitch, you can always hop over onto the YouTube channel, or vice versa. If YouTube isn't your thing, you can always view us on Twitch as well. So, we have a lot of news to cover tonight. First, we're going to get into our primary headlines, of course. We're going to cover this story. That's our main focus this evening, is this story here about these strikes on the Kremlin in Moscow. Again, that's the capital of Russia. And we'll also talk a little bit about North Korea and China this evening as well. We have a few different articles to go over there. Some news coming out of China, some news coming out of North Korea, again, that we'll touch on later in the show. Big shout-outs to Miss Tiger Eye and any of our other mods in the YouTube live chat this evening, keeping the peace. To all of our mods over on Twitch as well, thank you for stopping by. Unstinkable, I see you over there on Twitch, tuning in tonight. Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a minute. He says, as if that drone came from Ukraine. Again, we'll get into that here just in a few minutes. Doug Wilson, good to see you. Catlinburg, good to see you as well. Ken Alloway, as always, good to see you, man. Kitty Gundy, good to see you. Miss Tiger Eye, of course. User. Beatles, good to see you. Jackball TV, great to see you. Thank you for stopping by tonight. Patrick Junio, good to see you as well. To everybody that has decided to take some time out of their day to be here with us, to get involved here and get in the know of what's going on today in the world. Kitty Zimmerman, good to see you as well. Again, I thank you guys so much for being here tonight and following along with what we have to show you here this evening. Horizons, good to see you. Trevor Harriet. To all you guys, Ryan, good to see you. Special Force Horse, can't forget him, says hello from New Zealand. To everybody, again, thank you so much for being here. And, of course, I can't forget Joe Blowing Wind with that 20 gifted memberships over on the YouTube channel, by the way. He's been absolutely killing it with those gifted community memberships. I welcome all of the new members this evening as well. I'm just going to go right off the bat and say that. Hello to all of the new YouTube members, because we have a ton of them in the live chat this evening. Ballhawk and Sean says, hi from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Hello to you from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Ookton, Crushing Pie, Shameless Senpai, can't forget you as well. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in this evening. All right, without further ado, we're going to get right into it here. If I missed you, I'll try to catch you later in the show. And we'll be reading off comments and questions again in our Q&A at the end of the episode. So again, first on tonight's report is this story about this drone strike. And we'll head over here to an article here that I have from NBC News. It just, again, gives us a few of the details here. I'm going to show you the video in a minute, so just hold on. First, we're just going to talk a little bit about the details. It says, Russia claimed Wednesday that Ukraine tried to assassinate President Vladimir Putin. Again, these are big words here being tossed around. This is big news. Russia claimed Wednesday that Ukraine tried to assassinate President Vladimir Putin in an overnight drone attack on the Kremlin. News that drew denials from Kyiv, again, the capital of Ukraine there. So denials coming from the Ukrainians and furious demands for retaliation from nationalists in Moscow. We'll also talk a little bit about that word there, retaliation, how Russia is going to respond to this situation. We'll talk about that later in the show. The Kremlin's accusation, made without providing evidence, was the latest in a string of reported incidents far from the war's front lines. Kyiv said it had nothing to do with the alleged incident and suggested it could be used as a pretext for a new Russian attack inside Ukraine. Keep in mind, we're at the onset here of this possible Ukrainian counteroffensive that's going to be that is basically starting as we speak, if not in the coming days. And so this is an interesting time for this strike to happen. If it is the Ukrainians, I feel like they're almost doing this, to kind of to lead off with their counteroffensive in a way. This would be a bold move for the Ukrainians at this time. I don't think it's very likely that it was the Ukrainians. I do think it's more likely, if it was a third party, it was most likely a partisan attack within Russia. And again, we'll talk more about that later in tonight's show. There's a lot of different possibilities of what could be going on here. And again, we'll talk about that later. It says here the United States had no advance notice if there was a drone attack against the Kremlin by Ukraine. And with the deep intelligence ties here between the United States government and Ukraine right now, the intelligence that the U.S. military is feeding to Ukraine on a daily basis, with that kind of communication that we have with Ukraine right now, you would think there would be some kind of advance notice here. It says 3 U.S. officials told reporters there was no advance notice if there was a drone attack against the Kremlin, against the capital in Moscow there by Ukraine. 2 of the officials expressed skepticism that a drone could get that close to the Kremlin, given the fact that Russia has so many air defense systems protecting it. I reported on those exact air defenses, those exact systems that they're talking about here that are in place around the capital of Moscow. I reported on that weeks ago. We saw photos come out even of those systems being placed on rooftops in and around the capital, Moscow, there in Russia. So it's very interesting that a few months later we now see this event occur here. It says an attack on the heart of Moscow, even if foiled, would represent a dramatic illustration of Russian vulnerability ahead of an expected Ukrainian counteroffensive that will seek to push the Kremlin's forces out of the occupied land. Again, so places like Zaporizhia, and possibly, the Ukrainians have even talked about going as far as Crimea. Okay, so again, this comes at a very interesting time. Now, I have a video here. We have footage. We have a few different angles of the footage here. I believe they're really the same. They might have come from even the same camera here. We'll go with this one first just because it's a little bit easier to see. Again, this is footage here that again shows an alleged Ukrainian drone strike on Moscow's Kremlin. This is the equivalent for those of you that live in the United States. This is the equivalent of, say, like our Capitol building in Washington D.C. Being attacked by a drone. Okay. If you're from the UK, God, I can't think of any good examples from the UK. You know, take one of your Capitol buildings there. Throw a drone at it, and that's the equivalent of what's going on here in Moscow. So from the view of a citizen in Russia, all right, this is a pretty dramatic event, all right. So as our live chat poll tonight entails, you know, could this be some kind of manufactured false flag operation by the Russian government, by the Russian military? For use, you know, for their own narrative, for their own narrative, for their own propaganda purposes, domestically. Okay, so within Russia, you know, so again, you start to build kind of this motive here for why they would do such a thing, why they would issue a kind of a false flag attack. Keep in mind that explosion. I don't believe there was no injuries, no deaths caused by this. We're about to watch the footage here. We're going to see it's not that significant of an explosion that we see occur here. I don't believe there was any damage to the building. Again, we don't have very many details. What we're lacking here is very crucial details, and so it's kind of hard to really do a full assessment of what occurred here fully. Again, because we're getting a very narrow view, you know, from the Kremlin of what they say occurred here. Okay, so keep that in mind when we go to watch this footage here. So, I'm just going to back it up before we even get to the explosion here. You can see the drone flying in from the left of the screen here. You see the moon there. Again, also very convenient that there happened to be somebody filming at this angle at this time. Just going to go out on a limb and say that right there. Kind of a little suspicious. If this was a CCTV camera, it'd be one thing. But I don't believe this was a CCTV camera. I see some reflection here. This could be a secondhand recording from a security cam that we're seeing. I know some people were saying that earlier. Again, it's hard to tell. We'll go ahead. We'll play the footage here, and you should be able to see. So there's the drone fly over the top of the building, and then moments later, you'll see an explosion occur there. So you see the explosion. It didn't hit the building. The reports I've seen is that it either grazed the pole, the flagpole up top, or exploded right before hitting it. I don't think any major damage was done to the building. Again, we don't really have concrete information. Crushing Pie says, Nemico, I think this is the second drone. So, yeah, that's another thing. I've heard conflicting reports on how many drones. How many drones, what type of drone, if it hit anything, if any damage occurred. I've heard a bunch of different conflicting reports, and we just don't have enough information right now. Trevor Harriet says, image looks weird, like it was animated or something. Possible. Miss Tiger Eye says, how come the flag didn't catch fire? So again, I'll play back the footage here, and we'll just kind of look at it a few times. Again, so you can see the moment of impact there, basically right at the tower. I don't believe it actually touched the flagpole. I mean, just from the view of it, it looks like it's, you know, towards the camera more from that flagpole at the time of detonation. However, again, don't have enough details. You don't see any sign, like from the flag or pole, that it was struck by an explosion. I don't see the flag reacting, and as soon as the smoke plume appears on the footage, I don't know, it might just be my depth perception, but it looks like it's in front of the pole towards us. So it's more towards us than directly at the pole at the time of detonation there. We'll go back. We'll play it one more time here, so you can see it. In fact, I wonder if I can zoom in for you guys. You know what? Let's do that. One moment here. I'm going to zoom in for you guys here this evening. We're going to see if we can just take this up a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Enhance. All right. We're gonna enhance. There we go. Okay. Maybe a little more. Maybe a little more. Enhance. There we go. Stretch it just a little bit more. There we go. Enhance. Okay, there we go. All right, so now we can really see it on the screen here for you guys. This might be a little bit better. A little bit better of a view for you. All right, so let's back that video up here. We're gonna watch that drone fly in stage left. So you see the drone. So I don't know if you guys could see that, but right at the time of detonation, it looks like it's off the building a little bit. It's not directly by the pole. At least that's my take. That's how I see it here. So I see some people in the chat saying maybe CGI. I don't know. I haven't seen any professional video analysts pick this apart yet, but I'd love to see that. I would love to see like a VFX artist just break this down, and see say, okay, maybe this could be doctored or this or that. It is suspicious that, that we're getting like a secondhand recording here, possibly off a CCTV camera, or this isn't a CCTV camera and we're getting footage like through a glass pane. I don't think that's very likely. I haven't personally geolocated exactly where this camera was positioned, but if maybe somebody in the Discord maybe wants to take charge on that and send me that information, we can get that out to you guys. But to me, it doesn't look like any damage occurred to the building. It doesn't look like a very sizable explosion. Also, I heard some people saying, these are like the typical buzz bomb drones, that are used quite often here, and that they could have heard it coming. I haven't seen any reports that there was any anti-air fire, even any small arms fire directed towards it. I heard reports that it was taken down with some kind of electronic warfare system, like some kind of anti-drone system, or at least one of the drones was. I'm not sure about this drone here, if it detonated or if it was struck with something. Again, we just don't have enough information. Camcorder in the live chat, by the way, thanks for tuning in tonight, says, seems like a public stunt to further their war effort. Again, make sure you guys vote in tonight's live chat poll. I have an interesting live chat poll question in the YouTube live chat. Go and vote in that poll. Let us know what you think. Towards the end of the show, we're going to end that poll off, and we'll talk about the results and what you guys think about what's going on here. Demented Chaos says, to me, it looks like an amateur drone. It is pretty small, but again, that's a very large building. Yes, some people also spotted guys on the roof who were climbing up that dome there on the stairwell. Again, it's kind of hard to see. You definitely see some movement there. Yeah, there's definitely some people on the stairwell. And I'd heard somebody talk about that earlier. It could have been them shooting at the drone. Maybe they used something to fire at the drone in that moment. That could have been what we saw. As Crushing Pie says, yes, it definitely has wings. Yeah, you can see that. Again, it's the... I'm not sure the exact drone that was used, if that's in any of the reports, but it's I know from what I've heard, it's one of the, it's a pretty common one that's been used. Crushing Pie says, easy enough to geolocate. He geolocated it on Google Maps. So it's a cathedral? Well, it's right by the cathedral there. Okay. It's right across the street. There's a cathedral, there's buildings right across the street, so this could have been taken from one of the windows there. So I'll play out the rest of the video here again, just, for those that are just tuning in. You can watch the video again. This is of that drone strike. Of one of the drones. There's reports I've heard of multiple drones. We only have this footage of this one that I know of at this moment in time. Here's another angle of the same strike, which again, pretty sus. It's pretty suspect that we have these two clips. I guess the second one is more likely because somebody could just whipped out their phone and then be filming the smoke plume. But this footage here of the drone, like, just conveniently flying into frame and detonating. Again, pretty suspect. So again, that's the video of the drone. I also had this one here. I'm not sure if that was a separate angle. I'm pretty sure that's the same angle, just in shorts format. All right, so I have this article from PBS NewsHour. It says Russia accuses Ukraine of drone attacks on Kremlin. Kiev denies involvement. So again, Ukraine is denying that it was their doing. Again, possible that it was a Ukrainian saboteur. Could be a partisan attack, possibly even orchestrated by some anti-government, some kind of anti-government element within Russia. That's very possible. So again, we don't have enough details. Russia has said that they are going to retaliate. We'll talk again a little bit more about that here later in the show. It says here, Moscow awoke to a dramatic image Wednesday morning. An apparent drone exploding over the Kremlin, the heart of Russian power. The Russian president's press service accused Ukraine of a failed assassination attempt, but Kyiv denies any involvement. The claim risks escalating the ongoing war. It says here, Moscow says the two drones flew over the Kremlin after about 2 o'clock a.m. in the morning, Moscow time. Cameras filmed two explosions about 15 minutes apart. You see the drone highlighted there and the explosion there are about 15 minutes apart. Two explosions. So again, I guess there is footage of the other explosion here. Let's see if they show it in this video. I haven't seen footage of this second explosion that they speak of, and it doesn't look like they're showing the footage.
And analysts say what we're watching is a small drone, probably unarmed, exploded or brought down by Russian air defense. Now, as you said, the Kremlin called...
So I don't see any air defense system there in action unless it's like small arms fire or some kind of anti-drone weapon fired from one of these personnel on the rooftop here. Maybe some kind of electronic warfare system. Who knows? But I don't see anything like a incoming, like a missile, like an anti-air missile of any type. So again, interesting. And they don't show this second clip here that they're speaking about. I haven't found this second clip yet. If somebody has this second clip of this other explosion, please send it my way, and I'll show it to you guys on the stream. Mehmet, big shout out to you. I saw you're tuning into the chat this evening. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. SC247, welcome. He was gifted a membership by Joe Blown Wind. To all the new members, big shout out to you guys. Patrick Junio, good to see you. Stony, good to see you. Becky Godfrey, good to see you. Demented Chaos, good to see you as well. Again, to everybody that's just tuning in, hit that like button. We're just going through this breaking news here, again, about this attack on what they're saying is an assassination attempt on Putin, but really it was just a drone attack on one of the Capitol buildings for the Kremlin there in Moscow. Crushing Pie sending over another video. Coming in clutch here tonight, Crushing Pie. Thank you so much. This comes from Spriter, I believe it is, on Twitter. I'm pretty sure it's an unverified source. No, they're verified. Okay. He says, Crushing Pie says, second angle. I'll try to find a clean one. I know it's out there. Thank you so much, man. Highly appreciated the help. All right, so here's the video again, sent over by Crushing Pie, again posted by Spriter, verified on Twitter here. It says video of the second drone strike on the Kremlin. 16 minutes elapsed between the strikes of the two UAVs. Let's take a look. So you can see the UAV coming there inbound. And you can see an explosion there. Again, I can even see in this clip here, it looks like that did not actually hit that flagpole, but detonated next to it at such an angle that it would make it look like it hit the flagpole. I mean, I feel like that's pretty sus right off the bat, that we're getting that angle of that flagpole being hit. But it's not, I mean, I don't see the flag reacting to the explosion at all. I don't see the pole reacting to the explosion. And also that smoke plume looks like it's towards us from, I don't know, maybe it's just my depth perception perceiving it differently. But again, thank you, Crushing Pie, for sending that over. He also has a picture here. Now, this is interesting. This is a picture here Crushing Pie sent over of the dome apparently possibly being on fire here. Again, that's apparently that flagpole. Could this be wreckage on fire, or is it the dome itself? Or, and I'm just going to go out on a limb here, is it possible that the personnel up there maybe could possibly have caused something? Who knows? Just saying. This is interesting, though. So this could mean that the building was actually damaged, or that could be burning wreckage on the roof. I don't think it would just sit there on the dome, though. I don't know. Again, we don't have enough information. I'd like to know the source on this, Crushing Pie. Where's the source for this image here? We'll take a look at the source, if you can find it. He says, here's a clean video. All right, we'll take a look at this. All right, so here's a clean video here. Crushing Pie says the pole seems completely unscathed. Interesting. Okay, so here's that video. Let's get that up on screen, full screen, so you guys can really see it. All right, so right side of the screen, you can see the drone, I believe, come inbound. Oh, actually, no. So this video starts out right at the explosion. Okay, so yeah, that looks like the dome. Okay, so that's a way clearer image of what occurred. All right, so yeah, so it does look like something exploded on the dome for sure. Doesn't look like it hit the flagpole, but yeah. So in this clip here, and again, you guys can't see this because I have it zoomed in. My bad. 1 second. Let me fix this. Here. Let's get this zoomed in like this. There we go. That's better. You know what? I'll actually even just put it over here like this, so you can see this. Okay. So, all right. So you see the dome here in the center of the screen. If you watch the explosion, as the explosion occurs, it lights up the dome. So you know that it's actually on top of the dome in the, at the position it is. So it's right at the base of that flagpole. So this was a successful hit here by something. So yeah, you could definitely see an explosion occur there. And you can see that fire, which again, that image that Crushing Pie sent us over. And here's here is a tweet with a source, Mira of Kyiv. From Kyiv in 3 days to Ukrainian UAV strikes the Kremlin. And this is where that picture came from. So somebody in Moscow took this picture and posted it somewhere. Not sure if it was this, if this is the original poster of this image. Again, very interesting. But that video we were just looking at there really sells it that something actually struck that Capitol building there. So yeah, because you can clearly see that that explosion actually hits that dome. It doesn't look like a very large explosion, but again, those buildings are quite big as well. So there is a okay. So we have a double zoomed in take here. Let's take a look at this. So here's our double zoomed in take of this explosion. So you can see, so the drone in this shot flies in from left, I believe. Yeah, so you can see something fly in from the left side of the screen there. So you can see it fly from the left side of the screen there. I don't know if you can see that right there on the screen. But you can see something fly inbound and then strike the dome. And it lights up. Okay, so it lights up the dome pretty clearly. And then, of course, that fire and smoke plume is left in its wake. Very interesting videos here. Again, this video came from, and here, let me reset the size here. There we go. Okay. So this tweet here, this video came from Jason J. Smart on Twitter. Verified. Again, these are all posted. I'm not sure exactly what the original sources of these videos were. They have a TV broadcaster logo in the upper right of a lot of them. So I guess these were probably posted by some Russian television or media company, I would imagine. So moving on from these, I have this article here from Bloomberg that I'd like to talk about, or at least the title here, the headline, because I can't read the entire article because it's paywalled. But really, all that matters here is, again, this article here that talks about this warning from NATO. All right. Really quickly, though, I have one more post here coming from Crushing Pie. He says, from what I could find online at the moment, she's the original poster. Is that person that we were just talking about a minute ago? That Twitter poster was the original poster for that photo, Mira of Kyiv. That photo of the dome on fire there in Moscow. And he says that the second video was filmed from the Hotel Boltshug. Again, not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, in Moscow there. So again, geolocating where that video was filmed, and I believe that's actually both videos, right? So where the second video was filmed, and we have geolocation where the first video was filmed as well. So, again, this article coming from Bloomberg talks about this warning from NATO that Russia is mapping the EU and U.S. critical assets. The intelligence chief sees undersea cables as potential targets. The alliance says there's a persistent and significant risk. In recent months, I talked a lot about China in the South Pacific and how they had been they had severed one of those undersea communication cables that basically supplies the backbone for the internet as we know it. And how it was basically a trial run for the eventual invasion of Taiwan. If they were to partake in such a thing, they would most likely start by doing things like severing those communication cables between the island and the rest of the world, the rest of the world's communication backbone, so to speak. And again, pairing that with possibly striking satellites and all other communications infrastructure. So again, NATO is warning that Russia is doing the same thing. They're mapping not only the European critical infrastructure, but the infrastructure here in the United States of America. China is doing it. Russia is doing it. They have been for some time now. It says here, NATO's intelligence chief said that Russia is mapping critical undersea systems and warned of a significant risk that Moscow could target infrastructure in Europe and North America. I have this article here from Newsweek. It talks about Russia issues a new military threat to NATO. And again, all of these articles, guys, all of this news, all of these statements that have been given came in the last 48 hours. So we've had a very eventful 48 hours here, guys, with all of this geopolitical news, all of this rhetoric happening, and at the same time, we have this drone strike now on the Kremlin in Russia. Again, so we got it's a pretty unsettling chain of events here that has occurred. This article here coming from Newsweek says Russia said on Wednesday that it could retaliate with military measures if NATO uses Finland's territory. The warning came from Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova, who was commenting on a report that the U.S. military may place troops on Finnish bases. On Monday, Finnish newspaper, the Helsinki News, reported that Finnish Foreign Affairs Ministry official Mikael Antel said discussions on a new defense cooperation agreement between Helsinki and Washington may allow for the construction of new military infrastructure on Finland's soil. Antel told the paper that the agreement would not only augment Finland's recent NATO membership, but could also result in American soldiers being deployed to bases near Russia's border with Finland. So again, for those that don't know, Finland just joined the party at NATO, and now that they have done that, U.S. soldiers and other NATO forces can be placed on Finland's soil. All right, Finland has a pretty significant section of border with Russia. They directly border Russia, and again, Russia not going to be too happy about that occurring. It says here, we are closely following NATO's plans regarding Finland, Zakharova said during a news briefing, according to TASS, the Russian government's news agency. Quote, we confirm that Russia will be forced to take retaliatory measures of both military, technical, and other nature to curb threats to our national security that appear in this connection. So again, pretty significant news there. All right, this article coming from the New York Times here, again, basically talks about the explosions over the Kremlin set off dueling accusations. Russia accused Ukraine of launching drones at the Kremlin aimed at killing President Vladimir Putin. The Ukrainian president denied the claim, and officials in Kyiv warned that Russia could use it to launch a quote, large-scale terrorist provocation. Here are the latest developments, again, from New York Times. Two explosions occurred 15 minutes apart over the Kremlin early Wednesday. Video footage verified by the New York Times showed in an incident that set off a flurry of accusations and escalated tensions between Russia and Ukraine. Russia claimed the Ukrainian government had orchestrated a drone attack, describing it as a deliberate attempt to strike President Vladimir Putin's residence. Which, by the way, it's not his residence. He does not stay in that building at night. Okay, so that's the first piece of BS we have from the Russians on this. Again, President Vladimir V. Putin's residence that was foiled by Russian, quote, electronic warfare systems. Russia did not release any evidence to show that Ukraine was behind the explosions. Article here, again, coming from Fox News. This comes from the State Department. It says that the State Department is unable to confirm the video purporting to show the drone attack on the Kremlin. Repeating Secretary of State Antony Blinken and a State Department spokesperson said anything coming from the Kremlin should be taken with a shaker of salt, they're saying. The State Department says that it's unable to confirm the authenticity of a video purporting to show a drone attack on the Kremlin. The State Department principal deputy spokesperson Vedant Patel was responding to claims from Russian government officials who said that Ukrainian forces attempted to kill President Vladimir Putin by a failed drone attack. Quote, we are aware of these, but unable to confirm the authenticity of this, Patel said during a press conference Wednesday. Quote, we're continuing to assess this and confirm the authenticity. Russian officials said that two drones were used in the alleged assassination attempt at Putin's residence within the Kremlin compound. Russian defense systems disabled the drones. Again, he doesn't stay there from From our knowledge, he does not stay there during the night. He shouldn't have been there at all at that time. So again, that's pretty interesting that they decided to make that statement. Again, so I have some news here coming from North Korea. First one comes from the Diplomat here. It says North Korea issues a warning after U.S.-South Korea summit. The powerful sister of North Korean leader released a statement denouncing the Washington Declaration and the new nuclear consultative group. Kim Yo-jong, the powerful sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Pyongyang's main voice on inter-Korean relations, denounced the Washington Declaration and nuclear consultative group, two main initiatives that were introduced during the South Korea-U.S. summit meeting on April 26. Quote, the Washington Declaration, fabricated by the U.S. and South Korean authorities, is a typical product of their extreme anti-DPRK hostile policy, reflecting the most hostile and aggressive will of action, Kim said in her statement, published in Korean Central News Agency KCNA, one of the main North Korean state-controlled media outlets, on April 29th. In some cyber news coming from Dark Reading, a North Korean APT gets around macro blocking with LNK switch up again. So this is a little bit of news in North Korea's malicious cyber activities. North Korea's APT-37 threat group, which is basically a hacker collective, is providing fresh evidence of how adversaries have pivoted to using LNK or shortcut files to distribute malicious payloads after Microsoft began blocking macros by default last year to prevent malware delivery via Office documents. Checkpoint Research, which has been tracking APT-37 for years, this week reported seeing the threat actor using LNK files to deliver a remote access Trojan, also known as a RAT, dubbed the Rock Rat, on systems belonging to entities associated with South Korean domestic and foreign affairs. So again, they're directly targeting South Korean domestic and government systems, again, directly related to domestic and foreign affairs. So they're not just targeting systems within South Korea, but outside of South Korea as well. They're disguised as legitimate documents. The LNK files have been landing on target systems disguised as legitimate documents. In one attack that Checkpoint analyzed, the attacker disguised the malicious LNK file as a PDF and included in a zip archive, along with 3 legitimate but stolen documents pertaining to the Libyan oil and gas industry. In an April 2023 attack, the threat actor used an ISO to put 2 malicious LNKs that purported to contain content pertaining to South Korean diplomacy and policy decisions associated with North Korea. Checkpoint researchers found that in both instances, when a user clicked on the LNK file, it triggered the execution of a PowerShell script that extracted a document from the LNK, dropped it on the user's disk, and opened it. The document was a decoy that tricked victims into thinking they had opened a legitimate PDF or a South Korean's Hangul word processor files, kind of like their version of Microsoft Word. In some news here coming from Reuters, talks about U.S. Senate Democrats launch renewed effort to counter China. From May 3rd, from Reuters, U.S. Senate Democrats launched a renewed effort to stave off competition from China on Wednesday, planning legislation to boost the country's ability to face up the Asian powerhouse on issues from technology to security and threats to Taiwan. After passing a sweeping bill last year to boost competition with Beijing in semiconductors and other technology, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer and Democratic committee leaders said they would write legislation they hope to introduce in the next several months to limit the flow of technology to China, deter China from initiating a conflict with Taiwan, and tighten rules to block U.S. capital from going to Chinese companies. So I have a photo here coming from Crushing Pie, and I believe this is recently taken here. So this might be this morning then in Moscow. So this is a fresh photo taken of the damage to that Capitol building. Thank you so much, Crushing Pie, for coming in clutch this evening with those images. again, this shows the very minuscule damage that occurred there to that building. Doesn't look like too much damage occurred to that roof. He says that about 10 minutes ago this was posted. Again, thank you so much, Crushing Pie, for sending over this image. Crushing Pie, if you could, post all of everything you posted in the Situation Room, so that if anybody on the stream wants to take a look at that information, they can find it again over there on the Situation Room channel on our community Discord server. For those that don't know, we do have a Discord server. There's a link to that where you can join in the description below. Great resource for up-to-date information on what is going on in the world today. Okay, we're just going to close out of a few of these tabs that we had open here. Okay, so we'll get to that one in a minute here. Again, it says, after passing a sweeping bill last year to boost competition with Beijing in semiconductors and other technology, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer and those Democratic committee leaders said they would write legislation that hoped to introduce in the next several months to limit the flow of technology to China. So again, this is directly targeting, and I've talked about this a lot on the show, why does China want Taiwan? Not just to reunify, but they want that semiconductor market. They want those fabs. They want to have that monopoly over the semiconductors. And again, this is directly targeting China's ability to source semiconductors. So this is pretty significant move here again by U.S. legislators. We're now moving into community aggregated posts this evening. So I guess before I start those, I'm kind of doing it differently this time. Before I start them, I'm just going to go through and read off the names of this week's Situation Room Intel analysts. Our first posts this evening are going to be coming, again, from Crushing Pie. We already posted a lot of those. Showed you a lot of those. But also Paul Kostka. We also have Rakasan, as always. We also have Blade Liker. Kayuka, as always, I'm just going to go right off the bat and just mention Kayuka, even though I don't think he had any posts this week. Actually, no, he did. He had some posts this week. He's had quite a few. Never mind. Sorry, I had to scroll up a little bit. So, big shout out to Dwarden, Big Daddy Kayuka, as we like to call him. Big power poster over there on the Discord server. Rakasan, of course. Miss Tiger Eye. Let me see. Is there anybody else from this week? T4C, RD the Slayer. To everybody that posted in the Situation Room this week, thank you guys so much for posting that content. Our first community aggregated post this evening comes from Flash on Twitter. It says here, the Russian military placed military equipment and explosives in the turbine section of the 4th power unit of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Actually, I believe this one came from Vanquish, one of our mods over on the Discord server. Big shout out to Vanquish. Thank you so much for doing what you do, man. Again, this comes from Flash on Twitter. Again, talks about the Russian military has placed military equipment and explosives in that Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Again, for those that don't know, this is the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, and it's been contested over for quite some time now between the Ukrainian military and the Russian invading forces. It says here, this was reported by the State Inspectorate for Nuclear Regulation of Ukraine. It says here, it is noted that this became known during the weekly meeting on communication between the Crisis Center of the IAEA, that's the International Atomic Energy Association, and the State Nuclear Regulatory Commission on the activities of the IAEA mission at the site of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, held on May 2nd, so literally yesterday. That's when that occurred there. Next post coming from OSINT Defender on Twitter here. Again, verified source here. It says, extremely unconfirmed reports. Again, and a lot of people said later that this was bogus reporting here. I've heard a lot of reports on this tonight, so it was significant over the course of the day, so I'll read it off, but just keep that in mind. Take this with a grain of salt. This is extremely unconfirmed. So again, just to highlight, extremely unconfirmed reports. that the Russian strategic nuclear force has been ordered into a heightened state of alert today, with air-launched nuclear and conventional weapons being prepared at multiple Air Force bases across western Russia, including Engels Air Force Base in the Saratov region and Shyakovka Air Base in the Kaluga region, which both contains Tu-160 and Tu-95MS and Tu-22M3 strategic bombers. I would like to heavily stress that there is there is so far no evidence of this occurring, with it currently only being rumors from some Russian and Ukraine sources. It says here, senior U.S. defense officials have also said that they have not seen any significant movements by Russian strategic assets in the Black Sea, Russia, or Belarus since the drone attack in Moscow last night. It says, please take everything that is being claimed and reported today with a massive grain of salt, because there's a lot of unconfirmed info going around right now. It also says, for anyone asking why I post any kind of unconfirmed information, this is my personal thought process. Yeah, if you want to go over to OSINT Defender and read that, you can. Basically, my thought process is, if it's significant, we should at least make you aware of it, but also make you aware that things can be unverified and unconfirmed, but we have to stay vigilant and we have to look at all angles of what's going on here. Again, so far, no physical evidence, no video evidence, no satellite imagery, nothing that shows that there's any movement going on. But again, we got to stay vigilant and, again, look at all possibilities here. Our next post here, coming from Noel Reports on Twitter here, it says, again, this comes from Zelensky, quote, we are not attacking Putin or Moscow. We are fighting on our own territory, defending our villages and cities. We do not even have enough weapons for this. This is why we do not use them elsewhere. Zelensky commented on that attack in Moscow. Another post from OSINT Defender here. It says the deputy chairman of the Russian Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, has stated today that the attempted drone assassination on President Putin last night by Ukraine leaves the Russian military with no other choice than to eliminate Ukrainian President Zelensky and his cabinet, it says. Also says here, however, the Russian government could use these claims as a justification to target Ukrainian officials, including President Zelensky, which they so far have not done. And then literally right after that, we get this post talking about, again, that they're now saying it leaves the Russian military with no other choice than to eliminate President Zelensky. From Noel Reports, another post here saying Russian media report that this night 5 UAVs attacked a military airfield in the Bryansk region. They confirmed that an AN-124 transport aircraft was damaged after that attack. Post here coming from Jason J. Smart on Twitter. This is a post from yesterday. It says at 2:30 a.m. a Ukrainian drone hit a Taman Fitzgaz fuel tank in the port of Taman, Russia. Again, here's a video showing that fuel tank ablaze. So again, another fuel depot struck by Ukraine. Our last article this evening comes from Russia themselves. This comes from the TASS news agency. It's a Russian news agency, which they so kindly put right at the top of their webpage. I guess you guys can't see that because it's. I'll scroll it down a little bit here, and you can see. Yeah, see, it says a Russian news agency, literally right on the top of their homepage, on every page actually on the website. So they make it very clear to you that they are a Russian news agency. So again, this post comes directly from Russia. It says here, Russia's response to that drone attack on the Kremlin must be as harsh as possible, says lawmaker. According to Leonid Slutsky, there's no point in talking once again about the Kyiv regime's crossing red lines. I'll only humor you with the first few paragraphs here of this article here, but it says Moscow, May 3rd, Moscow's response to the overnight drone attack on the Kremlin should be as harsh as possible. So far, everything points to the Ukrainian trail. Leonid Slutsky, the head of the State Duma's Committee on International Affairs, said on Wednesday. Ukraine attempted to attack the Kremlin in the early hours of Wednesday using 2 drones. The Russian presidential press service said, adding that the drones were promptly disabled and there were no casualties in the incident. The Kremlin said that the incident was considered to be an attempted assassination of the Russian President Vladimir Putin. Russia retains the right to respond in kind whenever and wherever it sees fit, the press service added. Ukrainian presidential spokesman Sergei Nikiforov later said in a statement that Kyiv was not involved in the drone attack on the Kremlin. Quote, the office of the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who is on a tour of Finland, is muttering some mindless rabble, excuses and statements about the non-involvement in the drone attack on the Kremlin. It's very hard to believe everything points to the Ukrainian trail, Slutsky wrote on his Telegram channel. Again, this is all coming from the Russians. So again, the view in Russia now, after this strike on their capital, is we have to respond as harshly as possible. So again, something gonna pop off, as Miss Tiger Eye says in the live chat. Couldn't have said it better than that. Something gonna pop off. Great words. Again, thank you to everybody that decided to tune in this evening and be here with us for tonight's weekly Intel Report. Big shout out to Joe Blowin' Wind for gifting all of those community subs this evening. Or, sorry, community memberships on YouTube, as they are referred to as. Again, big shout out to Miss Tiger Eye, Special Force Horse, Isaiah, to everybody that's been with us tonight. Tai Shoes, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Ken Alloway, big shout out to you. G2G 238, good to see you. Vanquish, big shout out to you. Big up to Crushing Pie, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Big up to Kitty Gundy, Adam, good to see you. Trevor Harriet, good to see you. Marcus, good to see you. Ookton, as always, good to see you. Suze for Keeps, good to see you. As always, thank you for being here with us. Isaiah, I think I might have already said you. Mehmet, of course. Mehmet, thank you for being here with us tonight. I'm going to go ahead and end off tonight's live chat poll, ladies and gentlemen. So if you haven't already, you have about 5 seconds to to go and vote in tonight's live chat poll on the YouTube live chat. We are now starting our Q&A, so if you have any questions or comments, please let me know, and I'll start reading them off. Crushing Pie says, definitely going to pop off. Might jump in the car and head to the South Island. Might be a good idea there, Crushing Pie. Just drive safe. Make sure to drive safe. Joe Blowin' Wind, thank you so much for the super chat. Highly appreciated. Says, for the Whiskey Fund. Not too much of a whiskey guy, but maybe I'll put it in the beer fund. Or as Speedy Squirrel would say, the taco fund. Could put it in the taco fund, maybe. Thank you either way so much, Joe Blowin' Wind, for everything you do and all the support you've been showing us and gifting those community memberships so more people can get in on the action, so to speak, here. Highly appreciated. Oh, he says, whiskey fund because beer isn't strong enough. Hard liquor of some kind. Well, roger that, Joe Blowin' Wind. I definitely will. Ookton says, thank you so much for the hard work, bro, Nemico. Thank you so much, Ookton, for being here with us. Special Force Horse says, Crushing Pie, New Zealander? Yeah, I feel like we have quite a few Australians and New Zealanders in the live chat, as usual. Miss Tiger Eye says, root beer and ginger ale fund. There you go. There you go. Camcorder says, hell yeah. Good to see you, Camcorder. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Ookton Atzilla says, beer. Miss Tiger Eye says, I wish we did this every day still. I honestly wish I could do it every day. Yeah, I wish I had the time and the ability to do this every day for you guys, because I probably would. I would be doing it every day. Maybe not all day, though, because that got quite exhausting pretty quickly. I was doing like 24-hour streams, sometimes even longer, and barely any sleep. So that's not necessarily healthy, but at least doing, a few hours stream once a day, in the evening. I'd love to do that. GoFlow says, any news on the shell yet? Oh, the Sign My Rocket fundraiser. Yeah, so We have, so our order right now, the status for our artillery shell says sent to the front line, awaiting for processing. I had actually sent an email out to those guys about a week or two ago, and basically they confirmed that it had been sent to the front line, and that he was going to inquire on the status of our clip. Again, they are literally on the front line in eastern Ukraine, where they are firing these shells at active Russian targets. So it can be a little bit dicey. So sometimes it takes a while for them to get that footage. It's also, I think, like a 1 or 2 person operation, the Sign My Rocket fundraiser, and so they're the only two that are in charge of doing the support and like answering emails and stuff. So it takes them a while to get stuff done, but we'll be getting that footage here, I'm sure, pretty soon. Hopefully, I would like to get it for next week's report, so I can start adding it to the live stream intro. That would be pretty nice. Crushing Pie says another angle of damage, but a pesky building in the way. Let's take a look at this. So here's another angle of that very minuscule damage, I might add, of the Kremlin tonight. But that building is in the way. That tower here, can't really see. But it doesn't look like, it just looks like it got scorched. I don't really see any, like a hole. There's not a hole in the dome, so obviously it didn't get damaged too bad. Isaiah says, by the way, the channel Civdiv has some new on-the-ground videos from Ukraine uploaded on his channel. Isaiah, thank you so much for saying that comment, because I cannot recommend Civdiv more highly. If you want a good perspective on what's going on in Ukraine, if you want on-the-ground GoPro footage from Ukrainian forces, you want to see what it's really like for them in Ukraine, Civdiv, a great channel. Love the guy. I can't respect him highly enough, and I love the content he makes. I watch every single one of his uploads. I highly recommend you guys do as well. He has all sorts of really cool stuff on his channel. Footage from footage from the Middle East, footage from Ukraine, of course. Really great guy. Really great YouTube channel. I can't recommend it enough. Miss Tiger Eye says, Nemico, the Bellingcat people saying they think it's a UJ-22 drone. Interesting. Jonathan Hillard says, I remember watching the 24-hour stream when the first tanks crossed over. Thank you so much for being here, Jonathan. It's been quite a while. We've come a long way since then. So I'm going to go ahead and end off that live stream poll here. And we'll talk about the results. Tonight's live stream poll question was: Do you think that the Kremlin orchestrated this false flag operation? Basically, do you think they orchestrated this drone attack? Do you think the Kremlin drone strike was a false flag operation by Russia? An overwhelming 70% of you guys say yes, you do think that this is a false flag operation by Russia. Very interesting results. Only 28 people out of 200 human beings that voted in that poll tonight. 70% of you guys think that it is a false flag operation. Only 28% of you say that it was not. I definitely saw something hit that dome tonight in those videos. I don't know about you guys, but something definitely hit the dome. The question remains, if it was a false flag, I mean, they definitely hit the dome with something, but you can see they didn't do very much damage. In that image here, I'll show you again. The image of the dome, you can see there's very minuscule damage there to the building. Okay, so if it was a false flag, they were able to make it look like something actually, hit the building, it damaged it, but it's not drastic enough to, it's not drastic enough to make them look weak, so to speak. You know what I mean? Again, some will say that, it makes them look weak because the air defenses weren't able to intercept the drone. Well, if this is a false flag operation, Russia doesn't care about that. Russia cares about how the people view this. And again, they'll be very alarmed, by the fact that the capital was hit by a drone strike. And again, it might give Putin fuel to put on his fire, which is mobilization. He might be able to mobilize more troops. He might be able to garner more support, possibly. It also might have the effect of us here in the United States, us here in the West. It might fatigue us against the idea of continued support for Ukraine. Basically, it'll instill in us the idea that that this is escalating, this is going too far, and it'll basically exhaust us from wanting to support Ukraine. I, for one, personally wouldn't be, but this could be a tactic by Russia to exhaust the West, to exhaust the people of the West, for their support for Ukraine. Basically, like, we are, escalating. This is going too far. The Ukrainians have escalated this, making it look like the Ukrainians, didn't cooperate with the U.S., didn't communicate that they were going to do this drone strike, and that they did this drone strike in this big escalatory move, and that might in some way exhaust Western support for Ukraine. However, I don't think that would work out very well for them. And again, as you can see, not too much. If this was an attack by either Ukrainians or a partisan group, I think there would have been more damage to the building done. That's just me. Again, we don't know exactly what the drone was. I know some people in the chat there. I think Miss Tiger Eye was saying that it was a UJ-22. So it's a pretty common drone used in this war, if I'm not mistaken. Miss Tiger Eye, thank you so much for linking to the CivDiv YouTube channel, by the way. If you guys want to go show CivDiv some love and tell them that Nemico sent you, go hit that subscribe button over there. Isaiah says, y'all very welcome. I love seeing the action from the troops on the ground. Makes separating good info from bad much better. I agree. Michelle Welch says, hi, Nemico. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being here with us tonight. G2G238 says, I believe not a false flag, but did come from inside Russia by those opposing Putin, so like a partisan attack. Yeah, I think that would be even more likely than a Ukrainian attack, honestly. I Hokey Pokey says, looked more like a napalm style of explosion. It did. It was very fiery, which, yeah, again, could contribute to the theatricalness, so to speak, of the video that we've seen. And again, would explain why there's only slight scorching on the dome and not actual damage, like not a hole, or missing tiles. At least I'm not seeing anything that looks like, chunks were blown off of it. Patty Wack, thanks so much for being here, says Nemico. I'm late, and you may have shown the video already, but do you have a video of the strike? Yes, Patty, we do have a video of the strike. I showed it quite a few times. I actually already closed out of it, so if you want to see, you can rewind it. We literally watched it 1,000 times, but to sum it up for you, the image that you just saw on screen there just a few moments ago, Patty, is the damage that was done to that Capitol building there at the Kremlin. Isaiah says drone strike equals false flag, not enough damage and not enough panic ensued. Putin wants a casus belli to escalate because he's lost over 230,000 troops. Interesting. Special Force Horse says no missing tiles, nothing out of place. Surely an explosion or shockwaves would disturb something, or at least fragmentation. If you have an explosive device, there'd be some kind of fragmentation that would damage those tiles a little bit further than the scorching we see in those images. Camcorder says, I think they're just looking for a reason to justify their next action. That could be... Russia has a history of doing that, okay? They are known to do that, so it could very well be the case. Miss Tiger Eye says he wants to use an excuse to use the big boom. Also could be a possibility, although we hope that that is not the case. GoFlow says they wanted to cause damage. You'd fly it into a window, especially if it's for a fire purpose. Well, the Kremlin says it was for the purpose of assassinating Putin. And yes, if you were trying to assassinate Putin, you would try to fly it through a window of some kind to hit him when he's inside the building. Surprise attack, possibly, although they would most likely know that this drone was inbound on target very well before it actually detonated. Pattywack says, I should say a better video. I've seen a few, just thought you may have a better view. There's only a few of the videos going around, and they aren't the best of views, that's for sure. The one of the explosion that happened 16 minutes after the fact, the second explosion, I should say, that one is definitely a little bit higher quality. Kitty Gundy says, pretty ridiculous they could send missiles for over a year and thinking retaliation is horrible. I agree. Crushing Pie says the interesting part is having a relook at the first video. Most of the flames fell off the dome at all. I don't know how much explosives were on board, but the damage seems to be more than it could have caused. Interesting. Isaac says Putin wants to use TAC nukes so that he gets his declared buffer zone with NATO. With radioactive ground, the buffer zone is if need be. I see. Interesting perspective there. Miss Tiger says, yeah, I mean, hail does more damage than that drone did. Exactly. Exactly. The roof is definitely not that damaged. Miss Tiger says, I'm relatively surprised at everyone's good behavior tonight. I agree. We had a very wonderful night here in the YouTube live chat and over on Twitch. Thank you guys for being great tonight over there in the live chats for us this evening. We all had a really great discussion tonight. Thank you to everybody that was here with us this evening. That about concludes tonight's weekly Intel report. Big shout out again, as always, to Joe Blow and Wind, our biggest supporter of the channel this week and for about the past month, actually. Joe, you've been helping out a lot, and I just want you to know that I appreciate it, and I think we all appreciate it, especially all those new members there in the live chat. For all of those new members, by the way, I know I have a ton of new members now, and I will actually be starting to, I'll be putting out some members-only posts and members-only videos, just little things, nothing major that the rest of the community would be missing out on. And in fact, everything eventually makes its way to the main community, and gets released on the channel in some shape or form. But I definitely want to have something for those members for you guys, so I will be putting out some posts, some members-only posts and content here in the future. Mother Saki says, have a great night. Everyone, you have a great night. Mother Saki, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Isaiah says, remember, chat, drone sank the Moskva in the Caspian Sea. That kind of damage was not drone to the Kremlin. Thus, Kremlin attack equals false flag. Could be. Again, everything to think about, guys. Was this Ukrainian attack? Was this a partisan attack by some anti-government element within Russia? Or was this indeed a Russian false flag in order to further their narrative, further their propaganda, maybe to dissuade the West from supporting Ukraine any further? Again, these are all questions that are going to take time to answer. To everybody that tuned in this evening, thank you so much for being here with us. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment. You share this stream if you like this reporting. Consider supporting the channel. It helps us continue to bring this intel to you guys, to bring this information to you guys, to do these streams, to do these videos. Joe Blowwind says, where were the trolls tonight? Sad because a drone hit Moscow. You know, it's funny. I don't think I saw one Russian troll in the live chat the entire evening. Very interesting observation. Very interesting. Crushing Pie, big shout out to you again for all the help tonight. Thank you so much, man. Huge shout outs to you. Big up to Crushing Pie. Big up to Miss Tiger Eye for keeping the peace, even though, again, there weren't any bad actors in tonight's live chat. We had a very nice and calm evening with everyone tonight. I'm very grateful. Can't wait to be back here next week, guys. 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with your weekly Intel report here on Nemico Network. For those that don't know, we do have a Discord server. There's a link to that where you can join in the description below. Great resource for information, for news, reports, intel on everything going on in the world, not just Ukrainian war stuff, but stuff with China, North Korea, etc. So hop over there. Come join us. We'd love to have you. Got a whole bunch of new videos coming at you guys soon. Pretty pumped for that. Been super busy the past few weeks here. So I've been trying to get a lot of that content, edited, get that train rolling, so to speak, that editing train rolling, and get a lot of those edits out to you guys. Keep an eye out for this live stream as a video. We upload it to the channel as a video every time it goes live. And then, of course, the next day we upload our weekly Intel summary video, which is community edited. And it has a little bit Basically, it's a condensed version, a little bit quicker form factor. If you want to get all of the week's major news condensed down, highly recommend checking out that video when we upload it. Again, that usually comes out Thursday, the day after these live streams. So, I think that about does it. For those following along on Twitch tonight, thank you so much for being with us, for following along. Again, same to everybody on YouTube, to everybody over on Discord. Big shout out to all you guys. Thank you so much for being with us. We will be back here next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for our next weekly Intel report. I think that about does it. For those that were asking about it, I will be getting the 24/7 Intel stream back up. I'll try to possibly get that live later this evening. After I get this video uploaded to YouTube, I will probably get that back up live for you guys. Try to get it up for the next day or two. We'll keep it up for a few days, and you guys can pop in there and hang out and chat in that live chat. And also, I'll again, as always, be updating the screen with those live cams and different pieces of open source intelligence, updating the maps and all sorts of other stuff as well. Again, keep an eye out for that when the notification goes out. Again, if you are subscribed, make sure you hit that notification bell. It's the best way to make sure you are getting notified when we go live or when we post videos. Again, I might be back here pretty quick, guys. We could be back in the next few days here talking about retaliatory measures taken by Russia. I know right now as we are speaking, I can see that Ukrainian alert map is lighting up right now. There are air raid alerts all over Ukraine tonight as I'm speaking to you guys. So I'm sure I'll have some details on that in the next Intel report. If things escalate, I will be back here live streaming with you guys, and we'll be bringing you guys the news on what's going on. So stay tuned for that. Again, guys, I think that about wraps it up. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Nemico Network.
Something that will change our daily lives, that will change history, 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 that will change history. That will be the most beautiful day.
Let me